Or let's just crush those feelings down, let's bottle those up. They definitely won't come out later. What I do as a therapist when the shit hits the fan. You may not believe it, but despite being a life coach and a therapist, I have a life as well. And unfortunately, within that life, shit sometimes hits the fan. Stuff goes wrong. This video is about what I do to deal with whatever comes my way. I'm doing this because unfortunately I had something rather unpleasant happen recently, which I've had to deal with. And I've put something out on my Instagram, and which, if you don't follow me, it's just life coaching. Head there now, give me a follow. I put a poll out, said, are people interested to know how I deal with stuff? And it was an overwhelming yes from a whole bunch of people, so here I am. Now, it was interesting for me because I wrote this out as a blog first, which you can read if you like. But it was interesting for me to see the process myself rather than, because in my head I just kind of do stuff. But to actually put it into a process was actually quite interesting for me as well. Now, I want to be absolutely clear, although this is kind of displayed as a kind of step-by-step instruction on how to kind of deal with shit when it comes along, that's not how I do things. I'm not some kind of robotic psycho that goes, now, step 2. It is kind of a guide, but you don't have to go step by step, and even when I go through it, I don't do it step by step. So that being said, what is step 1? Step 1, I react. Me, just like any other human, we're emotional beings, most of us anyway, and it's impossible to not react when something bad happens or something, sometimes good happens. When things happen, as emotional beings, we respond, and we respond in whatever way we happen to respond. So it might be, it might be crying, it might be raging, it might be, frustration, it might just be despair. Depends what the thing is. But however you react, that's how you react. And there shouldn't really be any judgment upon yourself. Certainly when I react to something, I don't go, oh, I should have reacted in this way, or I should have reacted in that way, because you don't. It's a reaction. It's not something you particularly think about. It just kind of happens. Bam, done. That's how you're reacting. I always say, as long as you're not kind of hurting people around you or affecting people around you, then you react in whatever way you happen to react. So step 1, I react. Number 2, I feel whatever I'm feeling. Now this kind of follows on from the fact that we are emotional beings, but whatever we're feeling, we should allow ourselves to feel, and that's certainly what I do. So if something has upset me, I allow myself to be sad, I allow myself to cry. If something has really infuriated me, then I be angry about it. Now, being angry doesn't necessarily mean you're shouting and screaming and swearing at someone. Anger can be displayed in a very calm way, and I happen to be quite good at that from all of the philosophy I've read regarding stoicism and things like that. So you can be angry, but display it in a calm way. In fact, that's the most powerful way you can use anger. So whatever you feel, that's what you have to feel. And this whole kind of stiff upper lip, or just putting a brave face on it, or oh, man up. Oh God, man up. That is just bullshit, and should not. It doesn't help. Or let's just crush those feelings down. Let's bottle those up. They definitely won't come out later. Let's just drink ourselves into bloom. Let's just get so high we forget. It's like, yeah, do you think that the emotions and the feelings just disappear then? No, they will come back at some later point. So just what I do is I allow myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling, because that is going to help me process things further down the line. Next thing I do is I seek support. So that can mean any number of different things for me. So that might be talking to friends, it might be talking to family, it might be speaking to my own life coach. Yep, even life coaches have life coaches, and even my life coach is a life coach. So it's, there you go. So yeah, you seek support from the person you feel best suited, because depending on where you're at, perhaps I realised this later than I should have done, but certain people are better at dealing with certain things better than others. Weird, right? But if you've got kind of a relationship issue, for example, then you might go to one friend, whereas if you've got, a financial problem, you go to a different friend. Or you may go and get professional help, you may go and see the doctor, depending on what it is. But I like to seek out support from whoever I feel it is best to get support from. Now, when you're seeking support yourself, it's important for you to understand that unless you frame it in the right way, the person you're speaking to can feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to somehow solve your problem or make you feel better or something. Whereas it can be the case that you just want to go, well, someone to say, oh man, sounds really difficult. And just hearing that is enough. They don't have to have some clever magical thing they can say which miraculously makes you feel better, because the chances are that there isn't anything. Maybe there is, but chances are there isn't something amazing that someone can say or do. It's just a really crap time, or it's a really bad thing to have happened. So it's kind of nice to kind of remind the people you're getting support from that you don't just want to talk, mate. You don't have to have a magical answer. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to just be here with me and we can just talk about how rubbish this is, because that might be all you need at this time. Another thing I do is I do my absolute best to remain as kind as I possibly can. Now, it can be the case that when something bad happens to you, you then let that affect all of the people around you. You've had something really bad happen, and then that really affects your mood, and then the people around you feel your mood, and they get worse, and it just creates a kind of toxic-ish environment, which isn't particularly nice. Now, I'm aware this is sometimes a little bit unavoidable, because when something awful happens, it is inevitably going to affect your mood. But what I like to try and do, at least, is remain kind, and just try and help the people around me. Because what I find is that, for me personally, because I'm a bit of an empath really, is that helping people helps me feel better. There isn't really a disadvantage to being kind. It maybe takes a little bit more effort than being grumpy as hell, but I do try and be as kind as I can to the people around me. Even if that's just holding a door open for someone, or saying "have a nice day" to a shop assistant or whatever. that, or just smiling. Not that anyone can see if you've got a face mask on, but just trying to remain kind, because it isn't that difficult. And it can help to spread some positivity around you, and then make yourself feel a little bit better at least. So that's another thing I like to try and do. The fifth thing I do, not this is a step-by-step instruction, the fifth, sounds weird, the fifth thing I do is to try not to project into the future. Now, this is something that can be really, really difficult to do, particularly if you're someone who's naturally anxious and likes to have a little worry about the future, even when there isn't something bad going on. Even if the shit hasn't hit the fan, your brain still likes to go off and do that sort of thing. But it doesn't particularly help, kind of ever. So let me give an example of this. So let's say that you found out that your partner has been messaging someone else behind your back. So your brain can start rumbling on about what this means for the future. It's like, oh my god, they've messaged someone else. That means that we have to split up, which means that the one of us is going to have to move out, and I don't really want to leave the house, so they should have to move out because they're the one that's done something wrong. But then again, I don't want to be in this place because there's too many memories of this person, so we're going to have to do so. Who's going to get the furniture? Oh my god, what is this person like? Are they better than me? Is this what? Oh my god, what's their wedding day going to be like? Where am I going to be on their wedding day? The brain just starts going off on that kind of crazy series of questions and what ifs, and it just starts rumbling on. And it's very difficult to not start that, because the brain wants to know, and you want to know whatever has happened, what it means for the future. But you don't have any of those answers, and you start creating these kind of imagined scenarios, and then you start suffering the kind of imagined belief that they're going to happen and what it would feel like if you were in that situation. Well, that situation may not even happen. Probably won't happen, given that you'll think of God knows how many different situations. So you need to just pull your brain back. It's natural to kind of go down that path, but as soon as you notice yourself, and what I did, as soon as I notice that I'm starting to project this shit hitting the fan into the future, I just try and rein it in a little bit and just go, right, okay, well, those things are possibilities. Let's not think about those right now. What do I need to think about? I need to think about the right here and right now. What am I experiencing in this moment? I'm not experiencing all of those things that are kind of imagined in the future. I'm experiencing whatever I'm experiencing right now. What can I do about this? So, although it's really difficult to not project into the future, practically impossible, as soon as you notice that you do, or as soon as I notice that I do, I like to just kind of grab the reins and say, wait, slow down, whoa, Nelly, we don't need to go there right just yet. Just that can happen, but not yet. You want to be a lot more grounded in your foundations before you start thinking about what, whatever the shit hitting the fan means for the future. Next up, set a time limit for how long you're gonna let yourself feel crappy about whatever's happened. Now, this is one of the weirder things perhaps that I do, and it's something I haven't done for a long time, but it's something that I found pretty useful in the last kind of 2 or 3 years, is that when something bad happens to me, I go, oh, God, that's really rubbish. Right, I'm going to let myself feel really crappy about that for 24 hours, then I'll start, letting my brain go onto a solution. Now, I know this sounds kind of really weird, like, oh, I'm going to set a time limit and it's from 3 p.m. tomorrow, I'm not going to let myself feel bad about it. But once you know what's happened, you know kind of how it's kind of feeling within you. Remaining grumpy about something forever or remaining sad about something forever, well, first of all, it's quite difficult, but it doesn't actually help you. So, like I said, I've already said, react, allow yourself to feel what you're going to feel, but also just say, you know what, I'm just going to give myself a couple of days just to feel really down in the dumps about what's happened, because I'm human and I'm allowed to feel that. But you want to set a limit on it, so you go, right, okay, a couple of days has passed, what am I actually going to do about this thing now? So, although it's weird, I do like to set myself a little bit of a time and say, right, I'm going to let myself feel grumpy about this for a couple of days, a day, whatever it might be, and then I'm going to start being a bit more pragmatic about things. Now, I'm aware that this, for instance, if the shit that's hitting the fan is the loss of a loved one, you're not going to go, well, I'm going to grieve for a day and then I'll be fine. I mean, I realise that is not how it works at all. But if it's a kind of a general kind of bump in the road, curveball that's been thrown at you, just something you really weren't expecting happening, then, this is a good thing to do. But, there obviously are certain circumstances where you just go, well, I'm just going to have to ride this one out, aren't I, for as long as it takes. The next thing I might do, not that this is, like I said, a step-by-step list, is to look back at things and just recognise what level of control I had with whatever has happened. Now, it may be that something's the universe has just thrown something at me and it's just like, well, shit. Nothing I could have done differently. It's just something that's occurred in your life. Or maybe it's the case that you've messed up yourself. You've actively done something wrong. Or maybe there's something you could have done differently and blah, blah, blah. So if you look back at the circumstances, just kind of ask yourself what level of control that you had within the situation. So it's a good time for me to mention the blog I've got about losing the illusion of control. You can find a link in the words and stuff below or above or around. It'll be somewhere. You can only ever control your thoughts and your actions. So looking back at what particular thing happened to you, what level of control you did. Could you have actually done anything differently? Or was it the choice of somebody else? Was it just, something happening? Now, if it is the case that you had absolutely no control, then you can kind of start letting yourself move forward from it. Because I know how, as humans, we like to blame ourselves. I'm not really sure why that is, but we like to blame ourselves. Oh, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. But if you can recognise that it wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference, then you can kind of not blame yourself and kind of start letting that go, which is helpful. Now, if it's the case that you messed up, you could have done something differently, then, by all means, like I said, take some time to kind of feel a bit crappy about it. Maybe set a time limit on that. But ultimately, there's nothing you can do about the past. You can't change what you've done, but you can learn from it. So if you've done something wrong, go, right, well, I'm going to learn the lesson from that, move on and make sure that never happens again. Learn the lesson, forgive yourself, and then just move on to the next bit. With all that done, accept it. Now, this is one of the times when, I feel when I'm saying anything or people are listening to me, I can go, oh God, I can feel them hating me, and this is one of those moments. But at some point, you just got to accept that whatever has happened has happened. If a partner has ended the relationship, the relationship's over. If you had some like crappy medical news, then that is the crappy medical news. It's happened to you. What's next? If you've lost your job, okay, you're now unemployed. What next? And I realised that accepting things isn't easy, but actually, again, a good time to remind you of a blog I've written on acceptance and how important it is. Again, a link to that will be somewhere or other. Look in the words. But just to be clear, accepting something and being happy about it are not the same thing. All you're doing is going, right, this is my truth now. I am now single. I am now unemployed. I am now, suffering with a broken arm or whatever it might be. You just go, right, this is my truth. I accept that this is where I am now. And that means that you can stop being in denial. Being in denial and, not just saying to yourself, no, it's not like that. No, I know they split up with me, but there's a chance. I know that no, they must have the diagnosis wrong. No, I'll get my job back, or whatever. Like, just accept where you are. It gives you a much more solid foundation for you to move on for the future, and it also means that you can start directing your kind of literal energy, your calories that you use for making decisions and things like that, in a more positive way. I mean, in the blog itself, I talk about the idea of being in denial is like trying to stop a boulder from rolling down a hill, and you're just there holding this boulder in place. And then you're using all of this energy just to remain exactly where you are. Whereas if you kind of step to the side, let the boulder roll down the hill, the boulder's gone, and you go, right, well, I'll carry on climbing up this hill then. Maybe it feels a little bit steeper, maybe it's a little bit less fun climbing it, but you are in a more grounded and solid place, a better foundation for making better decisions for your life. And this step is one that makes people hate me even more. Find a positive, at least one positive in whatever has happened. And I appreciate that this can be really, really hard, especially if something really, really awful has happened to you. But there's always a small positive in everything. And I mean everything. I mean, I'm even going as far as saying losing a loved one, and this idea of finding a positive and acceptance kind of tie in together. So there's, let's say worst case scenario, you unexpectedly lose a loved one. Now that is just awful. I mean, it's like one of the worst things that can possibly happen to you. And once you kind of reach a level of acceptance that person's gone, for example, then you do have to start trying to find a small positive. Now that doesn't mean that you're happy that it's happened. I want to be absolutely clear on that. What it means is that you recognise that it has happened and now you're trying to make the best of it. So maybe it's the case that if you do lose a loved one, it means that you as a family have become a tighter and more tight-knit and happier group, and your family bond has grown stronger. It doesn't mean that in a heartbeat you wouldn't ask for that person to be back with you. You wouldn't change absolutely everything. But what it does mean is that you can't go back, nothing can go back and change what's happened. So given that you've been dealt whatever shit cards you've been dealt, why wouldn't you try and play them in the best and most positive way that you can by finding just a tiny slither of light, just to make it just a little bit easier? Because again, there's no downside, and it doesn't mean that you wouldn't change things. It just means that you're trying to make the best of whatever crappy situation you found yourself in. So probably going to be hated upon for this, but like I said, what I like to do is try and find a positive, at least one positive in every bad thing that happens to me. I mean, there are countless examples throughout history of people having horrific things happen to them, and you'll ask them several years down the line and they'll say, well, that's what actually made me who I am today and I wouldn't change it for the world. At the time, they'd absolutely, they wouldn't want that at all. But years down the line, they realised that it made them, it made them stronger, it made them understand more, it made them more compassionate, it made them whatever. So just to be clear on where I'm coming from with that particular thing. So with all those things done, I need to now decide, well, what I like to do is then decide what this news actually means to me. some shit's hit the fan, something has befallen me. What now? What does that actually mean to me? Does it mean that I've got to make changes in my life? Does it mean that I've got to redirect kind of my time and energy in a different direction? Does it mean that I have my boundaries been crossed and I now have to, look at how I interact with someone differently? It's very difficult to just have a video and just talk and say, it means this, because literally anything could have happened to you, or anything could have happened to me. And so at this point, I like to decide what it means for me. Like, what does that mean in terms of what I'm going to do in my life? Am I going to change things? Am I going to cut people out of my life? Do I just have to do things a little bit differently? So at this point, I decide what something means to me. And finally, I make a plan for moving forward. With all that kind of processed and firmly in place, this is the point where I will start making a plan for the future. That may mean that nothing changes whatsoever. It's just something crap's happened, you go through it, and you come out the other side and nothing needs to change. Maybe you have to do a lot of things different. Maybe huge changes have to occur. But whatever you decide to do in terms of your plan, it's important to go through these other kind of steps first so that you know what it all means to you. You don't want to be making decisions when you're feeling very emotional, because it doesn't, we make our worst decisions when we're emotional because logic just goes out the window. It's better to, for me personally, it's better to take time to process these things and make these decisions for the future in a non-emotional and very logical state, because you're just going to make a better choice for yourself. Now, if this shit has hit the fan for you and you really want to kind of see what this means and make a plan for the future, then I've realised that it's very difficult for me to just talk at you and say, yeah, you should do this, because it requires discussion and interaction. So if you're in that place where something's happened, or maybe just not particularly content with life and you want help making a plan for the future, then I can help you. Like I said, I am a life coach, I'm a hypnotherapist, and my job is helping to get people from where they are to where they would like to be. Even if that seems crazy as a plan, it's like I could never do this or never do that. Like, we like to deal with these situations and try to get people to that level of happiness or level of contentment, or just lose the anxiety, get the self-confidence, whatever it might be. So if you're interested, then by all means get in touch, have a free consultation with me. We just basically sit and have a chat, see where you are, see where you'd like to be, and then I'll see what I can do for you. So if you're interested in that, head to gistcoaching.co.uk.